Welcome to the March 3rd, 5:30 p.m. Session of IMIT, and so can you. So we're going to learn how to do some electronic voting this evening. We'll get to that in just a little bit. For now, we're going to begin with an invocation from our police chaplain, Father Wiley, followed by Pledge of Allegiance, roll call, adoption of the agenda, and then for those of you watching at home, the council will be moving into closed session at the top of the meeting today instead of the bottom of the meeting. Father Wiley, thank you, sir.
Let us pray. Gracious, loving, and almighty God, we give you thanks for the abundant blessings of this life. We thank you for gathering us together here this evening, and we thank you for this great city. We also thank you for the leaders that have been elected to lead this city. Father, we ask that you pour your grace upon each of us, but give this council a special dose of your grace as they make decisions for the betterment of this community. Father, we ask that you have them keep in mind all of its citizens, every demographic, every group, every person in this city, and make decisions that benefit all of us. Father, we ask this in your heavenly name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you please conduct a roll call.
Mayor Taylor?
Present.
Mayor Preston Jones?
Present.
Councilwoman Beck?
Present.
Councilwoman Taylor? Present. Councilwoman Weeks?
Present.
Councilwoman Matthews? Present. Councilman White?
Present. All right, everybody. All present and accounted for. As always, appreciate everybody's time and commitment to this work. And we'll move forward with an adoption of the agenda. Mr. Livingston, I know there were a couple of things that we wanted to pull over to new business right off the bat, things that warrant a little bit more conversation. Was that 8.1 and 8.2 right off the bat?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
All right, are there any other items from the consent agenda that we want to pull into old business or new business? Yes, sir.
What about 8.6?
8.6 is a street closure.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the pleasure of council, we can move 8.6 as well and be able to get further information.
Well, I only say that because I know that since it's a level 4 or whatever, that council's supposed to vote on all of those.
Right.
Can we do that via consent agenda?
Oh, yeah.
If so, I'm fine.
Absolutely, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never
Never mind.
Okay. So if it's the will of council, let's move 8.1 and 8.2 to new business. Those are really positive things. I think that is a good thing to have under new business. Also, full disclosure, the consent agenda this evening was done a little bit trying to be respectful of everybody's time. But as always, there is never any intent to rush something past or through this council. When you see something that you want to have more conversation about, I will never stop it. So please, please, please bring it forward. And again, with a long closed session ahead of us, I wanted to go ahead and get a couple of things through there. But I think 8.1 and 8.2 at a minimum need to come to new business. So with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda with the modification of moving item 8.1 and 8.2 down to new business? Yes, ma'am. We need to add a Women's History Month proclamation, don't we? Wonderful. We'll add that under recognitions and presentations right up front. 5.1. Is that appropriate? All right, council. So following along, we are adding a 5.1, Women's History Month proclamation. And then we are moving 8.1 and 8.2 down to new business, and they will become 10.2 and 10.3, just for what that's worth to everybody.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with the recommended changes.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion's been made and properly seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any further debate? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, oh wait, how do you want to do it?
If y'all want to do both, that's fine.
I'm good with that.
The ones that
I did
are logged in,
both.
and it should be up for them.
Okay.
So those who are logged on can go ahead and
Did we hit save though? After we hit it?
I lost
Yeah,
the whole.
you hit that and then you hit save.
I lost my whole thing.
I just
lost the
learned
whole
something. I didn't
thing.
know you had to click save after the vote, so I just learned
This
something.
is leaving.
All right. Okay, those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as amended, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. All right, so we have an approved agenda. We have a roll call, we have an invocation, we have a pledge. We are moving, we'll get comfortable with this. It's gonna take a couple of times. Council, is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss potential litigation and personnel?
So moved.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion's been made and properly seconded to go into closed session to discuss matters related to personnel and potential litigation. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. All right, seeing none, motion passes unanimously. We will move into closed session. For those of you watching at home, I believe we put out publicly that we anticipate this being about an hour. And so if we do finish early, out of respect for the public being able to take part, we will remain in recess until 6:30. If we do finish up early, if we don't, then feel free to come back and just kind of hang out for a few minutes. So with that, Ms. Getz, if you please move us into closed session.
Here it is.
Where I'm going to immediately gavel us into a recess for 10 minutes, just to use nature break, because we've all obviously been right in there. So we will bring our meeting back to order at 7:40. See everyone at 7:40. that clock. And so since everyone is back in place, we're going to go ahead and come out of recess and roll forward with the business agenda from this evening. So to recap, our call to order was promptly at 5:30. We had our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. We conducted a roll call, all being present and accounted for, still are. Adopted the agenda. We did modify the agenda slightly. Item 5.1 was added under recognitions and presentations, which is, as is obviously appropriate, a Women's History Month proclamation. That is, again, is item 5.1 that was added. And then under the consent agenda, items 8.1 and 8.2 were moved down to new business and would now be cataloged as item 10.2 and 10.3 accordingly. So just recapping where we are, our next step on the agenda is item 5.1, Women's History Month proclamation. Whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of life by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force. And whereas women have particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation. And whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. And whereas women have served our country courageously in the military. And whereas women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which creates a more fair and just society for all. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of women has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in literature, teaching, and study of history. Now therefore be it resolved that the Goldsboro City Council does hereby proclaim the month of March 2025 as Women's History Month in the City of Goldsboro, and encourage all citizens to observe this month by participating in and supporting all festivities celebrating the proud history and many accomplishments of women. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of the City of Goldsboro this the 3rd day of March 2025. Thank you. And this has been said before, but I want to say it again. This is the first council in the history of the City of Goldsboro that has been majority women. And it's a privilege to be able to lead this council, to try and pull this council and learn from this council. This isn't something that I lead with every conversation, but my grandmother was the first female to serve on this council. And to now be the mayor to serve to be part of the first majority woman council, I think is kind of special. And so I appreciate y'all being patient with me, guiding me, in some cases, smacking me around when folks are not looking because I need it and deserve it. And I think that this council is far better for the contributions of every member. So with that, we'll move towards public hearings. Chief West isn't in the room, so I can say things like that. Anyway, so we'll move to back to public hearings. Item 6.1, SU 2124, Yasin Investments Incorporated. This public hearing was closed and continued at the February 3rd meeting to tonight for further consideration by council. We'll have Mr. Helmer, our planning director, come forward and deliver a brief. Council, if it is the will of council, we can reopen the public hearing if there is additional information that needs to be discussed with the public, or we can move forward with a vote. Mr. Helmer, or Mr. Livingston, have I missed a step?
No, sir. You're good.
Right on. Mr. Helmer, floor is
Thank you,
yours.
Mr. Mayor, Council. This first case is SU 2124, Yasin Development Incorporated. The proposal is located at the corner of Bill Lane Boulevard, Arlington Road. Just briefly, I'll go over some of this material again. It's a 1.336 acre tract of land. The current zoning is neighborhood business and residential agriculture. The land use designation for this property is commercial. The existing land use is a convenience store with fuel, and the request is add an additional 3,362 square feet to the existing 2,590 square foot building as to be used for storage and the expansion of the retail sales at the location. Again, this request is consistent with neighborhood business zoning district, which allows for convenience stores with fuel with city council approval with special use permit. The request is also consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, which identifies the property as being suitable for commercial endeavors. In your packet is the map. This is actually the land use plan showing the property as being suitable for commercial land uses. And then the next map is the actual zoning, which shows the property as being neighborhood business. On-site and demonstrated on the site plan is adequate parking to meet the minimum requirements of the UDO, which is a total of 30 spaces. The site is located within a 100-year floodplain, so any new development would be required to be elevated to the City of Goldsboro's stormwater damage prevention ordinance. And also this plan will eventually, if council so chooses to approve the special use permit, will have a full technical review committee to include engineering, building inspections, and so on. So in your packet is a revised site plan. This is the original plan here. Upon request of council, the applicant did submit a revised plan showing the required buffers and additional landscaping throughout the site. What they did not, what the applicant was unable to do was to provide public restrooms. So I reached out to Environmental Health, Kevin Whitley, the Director of Environmental Services with the county, and he explained to me that the site, the soils on site are not suitable for a high traffic public restroom. The only restroom they have on site is for employees only, and that the septic system and the soils particularly will not support any kind of public restroom. So that's where we're at with that. So staff cannot require them to provide a restroom, nor building inspections is not a requirement of building inspections to require restrooms. So again, this is the site. You'll see a large row of shrubs along that side of the building. Those are there, and I thought they were taller than that, but planning staff finds the request consistent with zoning district and the land use classification which is located, and planning staff does recommend approval of the request in accordance with the finding of fact for a special use permit. But I would like to amend this recommendation and add a condition that the applicant provide additional screening in the form of a fence along the public right-of-way of NC Secondary Road 1915. If council so chooses, they may adopt that recommendation and make a modification to the finding of fact number 2, stating that that requirement of an additional buffering in the form of a fence is required to provide abatement to a perceived injury to benefit to adjacent properties.
Homer, if you would, do you mind showing on the screen where you're talking about wanting to require the additional fence?
Excuse me, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us whether that's in the ETJ or city limits?
This is actually a satellite annexation, but it does not have sewer at the location, so therefore it's on a septic tank. I assume that was probably an existing development when we annexed it in. The property does have full ABC permits, so therefore I'm thinking that was probably had a lot to do with the decision to annex it in. I am not able to get this pointer to work on this.
Well, it's because it's on a TV. Just go point.
So yeah, so I would recommend, if it's still a concern of council, to extend maybe a solid visual barrier fence here, and possibly along the back, but I'm not so sure that would be necessary, but at least provide, some privacy, if you will, on that side of or at least a screen from public right away.
What would be a concise way of stating the new condition?
I would state that the condition would be to add additional buffering in the form of a solid fence. I would say, well, I'll just read our finding number 2. There's no evidence presented with the application that indicates that the use will injure the beneficial use of adjoining properties and abutting property if a privacy fence is added to the site plan.
I just wanted to be able to concisely state where exactly the fence would go, because would it be from all the way from the property line at the bottom, like what on the map I guess would be the southwest corner of the property, all the way up to a point, or are you proposing a certain section of the property line?
I would say probably. I don't think the entire site needs to be screened with a solid fence, because that's quite a stretch. All the way around that outer buffer. I would say along the property line, and then maybe ending somewhere either parallel with the back of the building or just coming around the back of the building and maybe around the other side.
Go back to the picture. I think
Yeah, so maybe starting out here, coming down, around, and then maybe back this.
Mark, if you could go back to the photo, I think it might be helpful to see that. It would be.
So I would say probably maybe I would think the following the actual zoning line, maybe adequate enough. The actual buffers from back here on this line. What we really don't want to do is maybe possibly create, a storage yard or we don't want to cause more problems than we're trying to solve here.
And the reason that I'm asking is because eventually this is going to go to a vote, and I want to be able to concisely state for the minutes exactly what. Please do remember to silence your cell phones, please. But I do want to be able to concisely state for the minutes exactly what the condition is.
Okay, so I would say install a solid visual barrier fence that follows the zoning line, the general business zoning line. That's probably the easiest.
Mr. Lawrence, I see.
Way to capture that.
I saw the corner of your eye.
I have a comment.
Okay.
It's probably not really my place to say.
Okay.
If you're going to put a fence up that's totally blocking everybody off, you're not going to do away with people using the bathroom. You're actually going to enhance the opportunity to use the bathroom. That's not my testimony, but Mr. White, and I can't testify, but Councilmember White asked a question a moment ago about where it was located in satellite annexation, which Mr. Helmer answered. Part of that question was because of policing. I think you inhibit policing. Again, sorry, but I'm giving a legal recommendation to the council that if you do that, you're going to possibly set up a situation where the policing is going to be required even more, because now they can't even see it from the street. They're going to have to get out of the car and police it. And I'm not sure if that creates extra burden on the police officers. That's the only reason I'm giving an opinion.
Understood.
Thank you, sir.
And wise counsel too, because it is a trade-off, isn't it? It's a well, ultimately, council, now everyone has both sides of that particular conversation that they can put, and so we'll move forward. Is there anything further with your brief before we open for questions? No. Okay. Council, Councilman Boyette, I saw your hand go up. Are there other questions of Mr. Helmer at this time? All right, Councilman Boyette, the floor is yours.
In looking at this request and the concerns that we all had over the activity that the person in opposition spoke about, and doing a little digging further into this and speaking with planning staff, so as has been pointed out, they do not have the ability to install a public restroom there because of the restrictions related to the septic system. I think it's also worth pointing out that under no circumstances of the request and the current use or the future use that this approval would grant them, would they be required to provide public restrooms anyhow. So I know we all had concerns and said, well, we want to see public restrooms here, and then that'll solve the problem. But if the applicant is not required to provide public restrooms, then I think we would sort of be overstepping or putting ourselves in a possible litigation situation if we denied it based on that, meaning we were requiring them to have a public restroom. So my thought process related to the fencing and the screening was, as already been pointed out, I'm good with the greenery around the border, but the actual solid fencing that the planning director is discussing that would be in proximity to basically to the side and the back of the building, I would say it needs to be secured, meaning it's a secure fence so that no one can get in that fenced area to do anything that someone wouldn't approve of. And I think that would be a way to deal with that, because if the fencing fenced off from access to the rear of the building, then the problems that was going on that the gentleman spoke of before, there's nowhere for that to happen except at the front door, and I don't think that would be an issue. So I think if we did require what the planning director's expressing, except make it specific to it needs to be secured so that no one from the public could have access to that, I think that would solve our problem, in my opinion. But I mean, I'm open for whatever everybody else thinks, but I think that would allow us to approve the request and stay in step with how that needs to go, but also address the person that spoke in opposition for the reasons that they were in opposition. I think this will take care of that if the public has no access to the back of the building to do whatever. That's just my thoughts of how we can address it.
So that would look something like it would come from the edge of about where the new building's at, down the street front here, across the back, and then across here, and then back to the building.
And I say that also because the dumpster access is not relevant to the back of the property where it's at. Fencing it secured would not prevent dumpster access. So I think that's a way to satisfy all concerned. Just my thoughts on it, how we could do it. Because if we as the council condition it that way, then that's what has to be done.
Mr. Homer, in your experience, is it more effective to do the fencing route, which certainly is a plausible way, or cameras, and make it known that if public urination is a crime, would it be more cost effective to require them to install cameras? What do you think?
I think it's the responsibility of the property owner and the business operator to police their properties. If they know this is an issue, they know it's a concern of the neighbors, they should do their part. But also, I think being proactive and possibly putting this fence in will, if people have to go all the way out to the edge of the road, I would think they're less likely, to do that. So I think the fence will help, but that comes at a cost. Fencing can get expensive.
Council, any other comments or questions from Mr. Hilmer? All right, Council, we have a decision to make right off the bat. Do we want to reopen the public hearing and see if there's anyone here to come forward and speak? Okay. Do I have a motion to reopen the hearing?
So moved.
All right, motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion's been made and properly seconded to reopen the public hearing for SU 2124. Is there any debate? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. All right, we will officially reopen the public hearing. This is SU 2124 on the agenda is item 6.1. This is a public hearing that was closed and has now been reopened, originally scheduled for the February 3rd meeting. Is there anyone to come forward and speak? Yes, sir. And if you would, please approach the clerk.
Good evening, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Council members.
And it's good to see you again. Please note that all of your prior testimony is obviously still noted.
Yes,
and
sir.
so it's not necessary to recap all of that. Obviously, you're welcome to. But if there's anything new that you'd like to bring forward.
Yes, sir. Yeah, well,
State your name, please, again.
yes, sir. Glenn Bryan.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. You know, we do need to control the issue I spoke of. I know with the health department, I understand that there can be no restrooms there. But if we're going to go add double the space to it, and what they're wanting to add, you know, a beer cave, what's that going to create? It's going to create more of the same type atmosphere and traffic, which is going to be even more. But there does need to be some way to conceal it off and actually fence and do it, where you can prevent it. Because let me tell you, the bushes along the front, they're used just as much as the back is. I mean, people pull a car right straight up to them bushes. It ain't nothing for them to jump between the bushes and on the sides is where I'm speaking at. You can see it on any side of the road, 581, Arrington Bridge side. It don't matter where you go to and do. So like I say, if he fences it in, that will help control it. But you know, they don't even see the size of the store. They can't see it when people walk to the sides of the stores and walk to the back of it. They can't realize it, don't see it. They don't really care about managing it, I don't think. And two, that would help neaten and clean the place up where it would be concealed and done. I mean, it would make it even harder then. So, but anyway, I'd like for everybody to consider my thoughts, and even down the line with these places that are taking food and putting it above health and safety reasons is something we need to look at too, because you go to shutting down bathrooms, I don't care where it's at there or anywhere else, it's going to create that problem anywhere you go. And they're just putting $1 over the people's health. And
if it becomes a
sanitary
restaurant,
reasons.
then it has to have a public.
If you would, just in the microphone.
If it becomes a restaurant and they aren't a convenience store anymore, then they have to have public restrooms.
Yeah.
And this is something that, even in its current format, wouldn't exist under our current zoning. This is a grandfathered in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Councilman. Oh, excuse me. All right, sir.
Anybody
thank
else?
I just want to ask the
you. Go ahead if you'd like.
speaker. So with the suggestion of completely limiting access to the side and the rear of the building, are you okay with that then?
I am, and even like where the dumpster's at, like I said, that creates a problem. I mean, the gates stay swinging half the time. That ain't nothing but an outside restroom, to be honest with you. All of that, somehow he's gonna have to keep it up front's the only way you're gonna stop it. It's where they can see it and do it. If you just put up some trees and little bushes and shrubs, it's gonna be continuous. And like I say, you're only gonna see more of it because you're adding double the amount of footage just about that the building is now. So you can only expect that much more, people.
And I agree. So
Yeah.
I think that would be because the building is the footprint of the building is going to take up a lot of that property.
It will.
That we're talking about, and then completely sealing off access to the rest of it should solve
To
that
the
problem.
sides and the back. That's correct. Yes, sir. It
And
will
if
help
we-
a whole lot. You ain't gonna stop certain things.
And if
but
we condition that and approve it that way, the applicant will not be allowed a certificate of occupancy until he satisfies those requirements.
Okay,
So-
okay. I appreciate all the help and consideration. Like I said, there's some things you might, won't consider down the road because it does create a health habit and something.
And any other questions for the speaker? All right, you can be seated. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank y'all very much.
All right, and is there anyone else to come forward for SU 2124? Third and final call. Anyone else to come forward for SU 2124? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing on that item. Mr. Helmler, if you would come forward. Yes, sir.
If I can counsel the council. Remember, what ifs, which you may expect, what could happen, cannot be considered in the decision-making process unless it's a person that's given testimony in the form of an expert witness. He can testify to, and you can consider facts and circumstances have been observed. Evidence presented here is all that you can consider. And just because you have testimony that says, well, they might go over here or they might go over there and there's more people, so there's going to be twice as many people going to the bathroom outside. Well, you don't know that. And you can't consider that in your decision making.
This is a quasi-judicial, just to the attorney, or to our attorney's point, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. We do have to only accept the elevated standard for evidence. I should have briefed counsel on that initially, and then probably paused some of the testimony in that conversation. So with that, are there any other comments, questions, or feedback for or from Mr. Helmer? All right, seeing none. Council, is it the will of council to move forward with the four motions, or is there further discussion? All right, I'll entertain motions. I'll do it this way. Is there a motion that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety, or the alternative?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and properly seconded that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. Is there a motion that the use will not substantially injure the beneficial use of adjoining or abutting property if implemented consistent with the additional condition of fencing as discussed during this meeting?
So moved.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded that the use would not substantially injure the beneficial use of adjoining or abutting property if implemented consistent with the fencing requirement as discussed herein. Is there any debate? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. Perfect. Is there a motion that the use will be in harmony with existing development and uses within the area in which it is located if implemented consistent with the additional conditions stated during the testimony of the planning director?
So moved.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded that the use would be in harmony. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. And lastly, is there a motion that the use will be in general conformity with the City of Goldsboro's comprehensive land use plan if implemented consistent with the additional conditions discussed during the meeting?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
All right, motion is made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. All right, all four motions passing in the affirmative. SU 2124 is approved, subject to the conditions stated during the meeting for the additional fencing. Madam Clerk, do you need any additional clarification on the condition? Thank you. All right, we'll move forward. The next item on the agenda is item number 7. It is our public comment period. The public comment period, we'll get to that in just a second, is obviously subject to the policy as it is with every meeting. And those that have signed in to speak will be brought forward in the order they've signed in. All right, and we will have our timer back on the screen this evening. And so if everyone please just note the screens around you.
Our first speaker is Linda Wilkins-Daniels. Our second speaker is Tasha Burleson. Our next speaker is
Michael Oliver.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Oliver. I'm here to address you tonight because I saw an incident out on Facebook where an African American man was being brutally beaten, body slammed, and it's a hurtful thing for me to see as the man I am, but for our children to have to look at that repeatedly in their lives is something that we need to change. Now, I see how thorough you are with this convenience store, and I'm impressed. Are we as thorough with our black people in this community? Because there seems to me there's a problem and we need change. And change isn't always forced. It's never given. Nobody gives you anything for free in life. You have to fight for your freedom. So when we come and talk to the police for change, and we continue to see the same things over and over and over again since I've been a boy, somehow there needs to be change, because nothing is happening. But one day something's going to happen. I don't know what day it is or what hour. Something's going to happen that's going to be catastrophic. And it's going to have to be change coming from all of us. You're so thorough. I'm sure you're thorough with the investigation that's going on right now. But I'm telling you, we need to change how we treat each other, how our black people are being treated, how we're being housed, education. What do you think people are going to become with no hope? There's no hope for people. What do you think they're going to do? They become lawless. Our job as elderly people is to see truth and try to work people like you and say, hey, we need to change something here. Where are the after-school programs for the children that are walking the streets? What are we going to do that's different? It's so important that we learn that together, unify as a people. We're all human. We're all human. What are we going to do to make a difference? My time is short. I got a lot to say, but I can't say it tonight. So I would like to see something else happening where we can have meetings, where we can talk about making change to save all of our lives, our communities, and do better, because we're not doing very good right now. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Nicole Dixon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Dixon, and I am speaking on behalf of the African American Caucus of the Wayne County Democratic Party. I just want to bring up also kind of piggyback off what he was saying in regards to adding some a little bit more information to the Goldsboro Police Department strategic plan that I pulled up for 2024 and 2028 through to 2028. So there are 5 key goals that it speaks about: safe and secure community, strong and diverse economy, exceptional quality of life, racial and cultural harmony, model of excellence in government. It goes on to say model excellence through transparency, accountability, and continuous improvement. And further says, our goal is to set the standard for effective and efficient public service. It says your support and active participation are crucial to our success. However, I beg to differ. I would like to say no, Goldsboro Police Department. Your support and active implementation of your strategic plan is crucial to the community's success. The values you should possess as a member of the Goldsboro Police Department in accordance with the strategic plan says integrity, service, and accountability. But yet, where are the values in the Carter case? Who is holding the officers accountable? Where's the video footage from the body cam? When I see the data in the strategic plan from the last several years, it's very telling to me. For instance, the racial makeup of the police department really opened my eyes. From a town that is well over 50% African American, you have 85% of the officers that are white versus 14% of black officers. Per the strategic plan, it shows the available workforce at 51% white and 30% black. How is that possible from this town? Of course, there are many variables you can throw at it. However, it still does not make sense unless it's intentional. The math just does not math to me. In closing, how can you strive for a strong and diverse economy or racial and cultural harmony when your Goldsboro Police Department continues to look less and less like the community in which it serves? You wonder why within the SWOT analysis, it says that the public perception of law enforcement is negative. However, you need to look at the fact that your racial makeup of your police department does not look like your community it serves. So you might want to consider that. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Richard Taylor.
Good evening. My name is Richard Taylor, and in January we saw that incident that everybody is speaking about. Our community was outraged. Since that time, we've had 3 meetings. At the first meeting, 2 ladies came up and spoke about it, gave their concerns to the council. At the comment period, only 3 council members, that's Councilman White, Councilwoman Matthews, and Councilmember Jones, felt it needed to be addressed, and they, in so many words, condemned it. The other 3 members, well, technically 4, were deafeningly silent, right? And so I think pointing that out, that the 3 black members condemned it and the 3 white members were definitely silent, is a microcosm of what we saw on Facebook with the Goldsboro Police Department posts. All the white people were justifying the police, majority of them, I won't say all, and all the black people were saying no, they were wrong. So since I can't address those people, I will address the people I know. Beverly, you know I love you. I hug you, I kiss you every time I see you. You profess to be a lover of God. You pray publicly. But in that same Bible you swore your oath on, it talks about Jesus and what you've done to the least of these, you have also done to me. Well, Psalms 82:4, do justice and deliver the poor from the hand of the wicked. Or Job, how he loved God and eschewed evil. That means he hated evil. So anybody who can sit and see.
We can't allow personal, I'm not taking away from your time, we're going to put your time up. We cannot allow personal, if you want to speak to us as a group.
I'm speaking to you as a group, one by one. So, I mean, I'm moving down the line. I'll get to you in a second, or you want me to get to you now?
I would like for you to go ahead and get to me. I don't want you to go in each individual and taking shots at each individual council.
No, I'm not taking shots. I'm literally giving community concerns about how black people feel that the white members of the council are not as concerned as it seems. So with you as well, you give us a lot of word salad about transparency and investigation. I can't let you slide because I've seen mayors across the country, both black and white, condemn police brutality when they see it. Jamie, you know you're my friend as well. Last meeting, you had 5 people come up and speak about that particular incident. One lady spoke about bullying. At your comments, you gave a whole soliloquy about bullying, but never said anything about that situation. Chris, you know I like you too. We've been hanging out. I've been at the bar. You've been taking shots. I know you can talk, but on this matter, you were silent. So I will not allow you guys as leader, and that's why I'm calling you by your first name, because I can't address you politically because you are no leader of mine if you guys will not address an issue that concerns my community. So I'm asking you in your leadership position to do that which is right. You can't hide your head in the sand and hide behind your position or an investigation when everybody see what is wrong with this community. So I love y'all. I'm gonna leave y'all with the grace, peace of God upon y'all. I'm gonna get out of here because I got things to do, but I will be watching to see if you guys are going to address what is wrong. And it leaves a stain on good police officers like Elliot and so many good police officers I know. So you guys don't want to be in that number of what we see in America. Now, you know I don't care about that 3 minutes. So you don't want to be.
Taylor, please, yeah. I've given you an incredible amount of deference going in individually, talking about individual council members.
No, I'm talking about the council as a whole.
I'm asking you, please.
Oh, yeah, I'm going. I got things to do. But I'll be listening and see if y'all want to address the issue that's concerning so many.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, Mr. Taylor, please. All right. That concludes our public comment period. We'll next move to the consent agenda as modified. Remember that items 8.1 and 8.2 were moved down to new business. So we'll begin with 8.3. Mr. Livingston, if you would please brief or entertain any remaining questions on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have several consent agenda items on the agenda. Contract award for consulting services. I'll just brief these really quick. That's our CAPER, Consolidated Action Plan, and our Annual Action Plan. We have a low bidder amount there that they've are recommending. A resolution to approve installment loan financing. We're meeting with the LGC tomorrow to go over that. We've talked about that several times. Basically 10-year note at 3.86 if I'm not mistaken. There's an operating budget amendment in there as well for those things. And we have a Jeep Show and Shine. It's a new event here in downtown Goldsboro. We'll be using the 200 block to sort of block portions of that from 8 to 2 o'clock in the morning. And we have an authorization to a bid award for Clearwell #1 project that was properly advertised and sent out for bids, and a low bidder there. And a certificate of sufficiency, contiguous annexation petition, and then we have approval of minutes. I'll entertain any questions at this time.
Council, were there any remaining questions on items 8.3 through 8.9 on the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll call the vote. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 8.3 through 8.9?
So moved.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded to approve 8.3 through 8.9. Madam Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Mayor Gaylor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones?
Yes.
Councilman Boyette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor? Yes. Councilwoman Matthews? Yes. Councilwoman Weeks?
Yes. All right. All being in favor, motion passes. Consent agenda items 8.3 through 8.9 are approved. Next, we'll move to section number 9, 9.1, the organization study. Mr. Livingston, and do we have our consultant also present still? Perfect.
Yeah, I'll go ahead
Mr. Lee,
and start,
floor's
just kick
yours.
us off there, Mayor. As you know, the city engaged a consulting firm that was also doing our pay and classification study to perform an organization study. You have seen drafts of that study. I've also given you a synopsis of the recommendations that they gave us and kind of a little about where we're at with some of those recommendations. Tonight, I think he's here to kind of give us a longer overview of what we weren't able to do during the retreat because due to time constraints. But I'm also here to answer any questions about the study, any recommendations or thoughts that you may have on the study, and where you feel as a city council we need to go next with the study for their recommendations and also the recommendations that I've made. That's my opening comments, Mayor.
All right.
I believe they're here, at least virtually.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, you're ready to go. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. I was just introducing if you want to introduce yourself as the Management Advisory Group and
my name is Donald Long with Management Advisory Group, and it's a pleasure to have had the opportunity to work with the city on providing recommendations in reference to not only the compensation and classification study, but also for the organization structure. There are quite a few recommendations, and I'm not sure what you expected this evening. Dr. Campbell was with us for a couple of hours, but he had to leave. But we both were authors of the reports that you received. The compensation study resulted in a number of changes and recommendations, and resulted in some costs to ensure that the city is in a strong position to hire people and ensure that the relationships between the positions in the structure are appropriate. We made a number of recommendations in the management structure review, chief among which was to streamline the organization and ensure that the number of people reporting directly to the city manager position was reduced from 19 to, I believe, 7. So it streamlines the structure and also makes a recommendation for a new position of assistant city manager. So the various departments would report up through the assistant city manager positions. Some would remain as direct reports, such as the police and fire and human resources. So there are a large number of recommendations, and we hope that you consider them. And I'm happy to answer any questions I can for you this evening.
All right, Council, we've received the official study and report, and then we've also received some feedback from Mr. Livingston. Mr. Livingston, would you like to walk us through areas that you saw of the report that you felt were things that we ought to consider at this time, or just simply field questions right now?
I would just ask if there's any questions. I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Any questions or concerns anybody has. I think fundamentally, just a couple comments, the biggest changes they're recommending is some of the new positions. And as we go through the budget process, we'll need to know whether or not we're prepared or we agree with those new positions and are going to fund them. So that's kind of the direction I need from the. We've put those in there because we feel they're needed, and but we would rather know for sure from the City Council if you feel like that's the direction you want to go.
Do you mind talking through the ones that you think are necessary and are included in for funding this year?
So we've put in the second assistant city manager position. We put in the development services director, and those are the two key positions that I think are needed.
Are there any other aspects of the management study that you want to address? Are there things that might be useful down the road, but right now just simply isn't really a good fit, or things that you wish we could implement, but you just don't see the funding for?
I think some of the recommendations, they don't necessarily, like merging some of the departments, aren't really going to bear a lot of fruit for us. But if we're having a second assistant city manager, that helps with that span of control issue and helps solve that riddle, so to speak, because it is a lot of departments. The development services merger will help with the lowering the number of departments and direct reports. And so those two things are sort of geared towards that, hiring that second assistant city manager and the development services director, which, the report talks about a senior planner, which that may be needed in the future, but I think right now it's more important to have a development services director.
All right, Council, what comments and questions do we have for Mr. Livingston? And I'm sorry, sir, your name one more time. We only met that one time at the kickoff meeting.
Dr. Long.
Long.
Dr. Long, perfect. So, Council, any comments or questions for Dr. Long and Mr. Livingston? All right.
For Mr. Livingston, the comments that you just made, are those your comments alone, or is that included with HR and what they think would be?
That's a great question, and I have consulted with staff and HR and the other department heads. They don't totally agree with everything, but that's the way of the world. We're not going to all agree on everything. You guys don't agree on everything, but we largely have agreed on the major points. Things like the Paramount merging underneath. We feel like Parks and Recreation culture is a great idea, and I think we're doing that already. But having Paramount come under Parks and Recreation just didn't see a lot of help with that. We felt like that was something that could stay in with their nonprofit board and their foundations, and it made sense. But at the same time, having things like travel and tourism and downtown development at least meeting on a monthly basis with their whole staff so they can collaborate would create that synergy we needed. Also having cross positions on each of the board, which we've done, to help build that cohesiveness there. So there's things we can do without actually having to merge the departments, and we'll still get that synergy and not have and still be able to operate the way we've been operating.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. While I agree with any of your recommendations, sir, it is my understanding that we're not going to vote at this time. Because I agree that cultural arts should not go under Parks and Recs. I believe that it should stand alone, and there's some other areas as well. But you can't hear me? Okay. But there are some other areas as well And so it is my understanding that we're not going to be voting on those things at this time. Am I correct?
This is actually not a council vote conversation. However,
Okay.
what we are doing is providing guidance to the manager, because as they're building out a budget, ultimately they're going to need to either put funding in for departments and positions or not, and then we don't want to be debating it as part of a larger budget package. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, where there's some areas, I really think that the cultural arts should, I think it should be called cultural arts, but I think it should stand alone. It's my understanding in the past, I wasn't on the council then, but it had been, the Paramount had been under Parks and Recs, and it didn't flourish as well as it is flourishing now. So I would really like to see that, continue to stand alone. While I don't have any problems with travel, tourism, and DGDC merging, but because I am a team player, I will listen to my council members and see how they feel and vote accordingly. But since this is something that we're not going to be voting on now, I did want to share those points that I have.
Glad to hear that your comments appear consistent with Mr. Livingston's comments as well, of things remaining as they are in structure. So it sounds like y'all are consistent and aligned. Are there other comments and questions? Because it is a big thing, because what we're doing is providing guidance that will ultimately result in budget adjustments and ramifications. So it's definitely a big conversation.
I'm disappointed that Dr. Campbell wasn't with us, which I understand why, because our closed session went long. What was his reasoning for the recommendation of the Downtown Development Corporation and the Travel and Tourism to merge as one?
I believe it's a matter of trying to see the organizations working together in an efficient manner, and there was we thought that was the most appropriate way to organize. The key thing here overall is to ensure that you have a more streamlined structure, because the way it is now is just not sustainable. We can get back to you with a more specific answer on your specific question, because I know that he was active in that portion of the study.
That's a good question.
I got one more question.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, Ms. Weeks.
I'm sorry,
Did you?
Ms. Weeks, you go ahead. Okay. I think this is more so for Matt, because I know throughout this study, it talked about merging a lot of departments, and there was some kickback about when you have two department heads already existing, who gets what. So I'm wondering, is a lot of your recommendation based on trying to keep everyone happy by keeping them separate, or are we really going to consider that part where they, just figuring out how do we rename these positions but allow people to still coexist under one space?
So it wasn't looking at trying to keep people happy. It was more like what's functional and what's in the best interest of the city. There's a lot of things that we're talking about, like the whole development services and bringing community development back under planning. There's synergies there with a planning department that you get under community development. They're related kind of activities. Travel and tourism and downtown development do different kind of things, and they have two different boards, but they need to coordinate more. But merging the departments, it doesn't really, it looks almost as if, well, who's going to take over that, which would make sense. Is the downtown more important than travel and tourism? So there wasn't really a whole lot of viability that I saw in that particular merger there. Some of the other ones, like utilities and coming up under collections, yeah, we've been talking about that. Distribution and collections coming up underneath public utilities, our water and sewer treatment plant, and we totally agree with that, and it's a matter of logistics with that. So how do you have those staff report over to the wastewater treatment plant or the water plant? So we're working out how to do that over the next several months, but that is a recommendation that a lot of these recommendations, actually, to be truthful, came from me to them. or maybe we were on the same page, but we had those discussions, and that was one that you find in most cities, certainly cities of all different sizes. You will find their distribution and collections as part of their public utilities division. And there's reasons for that, because when they're out there in the field, and we do a great job of communicating, but when they're out there in the field and there's a water leak and it's affecting drawing water down from the plant, you need to make sure that you're on lockstep, and this day you're going out here to do this, and this day, both of those things, whether it's water or sewer, they tie back to our plant, which is essential to what we do from a public utilities perspective. Those have got to be coordinated absolutely every single day with every job they do, and it's easier to do that when you're all in the same boat, so to speak.
Dr. Campbell also stated in the study that he felt like we were overstaffed in our finance department by 2 positions. Why did he feel that way, and which positions was he insinuating that we restructure in that area?
Well, there were a couple of support positions, I believe, that were suggested to be moved from finance once the audit is finalized and completed and so forth, to support the functions to where they were recommended, which was over to recreation, I believe. So.
Recreation?
No.
That don't make sense.
Thumb back through on that one. So there were, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm shooting from memory here, but there were a number that were recommended to be transferred to other departments. But do you remember what the other department was? Do you?
I don't. I know that some of the things, the activities that we talked about, like, for example, the business privilege licenses, are going to be moved up to finance, and that makes sense, and I made that in my recommendation. So it's more shifting activities around as some way of being able to deal with workload so it's more evenly distributed and more efficiently organized. When you're talking about revenue, the collection of revenue, it needs to go with your finance department. The same thing with, and that's what, by and large, we do that. But there are some areas where that was one of them with the privilege license, where we could become more efficient and have them focus more on the day-to-day operations of inspections and code enforcement and those types of things.
I do have a question.
Councilman?
I know at some point, if you could correct me if I'm wrong, but they talked about procurement coming under finance as well. Was that one of the?
So it's already under finance.
Well, I do kind of see why procurement would be under finance. I also think that one thing that wasn't discussed, and I think is important for us, especially coming through the background that we did come through with accountability of equipment and property, that we need to really look at a property book office that handles our property. I don't think he addressed that. I just think he put it under finance as a procurement. And then they said it wasn't. That's just what they saw in most municipalities. But I have seen, and I have been in organizations where when you have a standalone property book office, you go to one single person and you know where all your property is. When property comes in, it's put on a property book, so it's accounted for with paperwork. When it's divested, the property book office keeps the records of it. So when it comes time for an investigation or background or what have you, there's one office that it go to. Miss Gwen does a beautiful job with everything she has, but I think that we can kind of more distribute some of the things that she do to be more effective. And property is one of those things that I think that we should look at.
Council, other comments, questions, and suggestions? Again, as we're going through building out these different budget departments, this is good feedback. It's the right time to do it. We're actually ahead of schedule compared to years past, which is a really good thing.
I think it's phenomenal feedback, but my concern is that right now we are in the midst of seeking a city manager, and whomever that individual is that we select as our next city manager, I believe that they should have some input into the study.
I agree with that. I agree with Chris wholeheartedly when he spoke of that outside the realm of us.
Right.
That we do need. It's a great discussion, but I do think we need to.
Sure. Well, and yes, ma'am. go
Yes,
ahead.
I agree with that. That's why I wanted to bring the point that this was just a discussion and we weren't trying to decide anything, even though we could talk about the likes and dislikes. But I really think that that's very correct, Councilwoman Weeks. Thank you for letting me say.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right. Any comments? Any further comments, questions? If not, we will excuse Dr. Long. I'm sure he has probably been on the call for about 2 hours now.
That's okay. That's fine. These are important issues.
Well, and I appreciate your feedback. And we'll direct any specific questions from council members back through our clerk and then back to you. Inevitably, as soon as we hang up, someone will think of something. I know I will. So, if that's okay, Mr. Livingston, or Dr. Long, Mr. Livingston, I'll go ahead and move us to the next agenda item. All right, Dr. Long, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
your time
Dr.
tonight.
Long.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right, so we'll move next to item 10.1. And again, I do want to emphasize that if there are specific questions, if there are specific questions that remain, and they inevitably will come up, just simply go through our city clerk, and we'll make sure that they're directed back up there. She's kind of been our point of contact. Obviously, the city has a few point of contacts with the consulting group, but she's been our point of contact. All right, 10.1.
Evening, Mayor, Council. I have 10.1, request authorization to purchase a single axle Western Star 10-ton dump truck. The Public Works Stormwater Division has a 17-year-old dump truck. It has a first generation regeneration system on it. It's been causing some problems due to the age. Parts are hard to come by. This truck is used routinely to haul equipment and supplies back and forth to job sites. It's become ineffective, it's causing downtime, and it's affecting morale. So Piedmont Truck Center has a dump truck chassis ready and it's available to purchase. The bed install will take 6 to 9 months, which isn't unusual. So even if we order it now, we're still looking 6 to 9 months before we can get a replacement. The purchase price to the North Carolina Sheriff's Association is $191,225. After you add the highway tax, title, tag fees, it's approximately $200,000. There's sufficient fund balance in the stormwater utility fund to purchase the new dump truck. It's recommended that council adopt the attached resolution authorizing the purchase of the Stormwater Division's Western Star 10-ton dump truck through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association for $200,000.
Council, are there any comments or questions on this one? This one, the budget for doing it is coming out of savings and is otherwise budgeted for correctly, so it's not coming out of fund balance.
Sure.
It being a new item, just wanted to bring it before council. Probably could have been consent agenda given that it's relatively simple. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, as this is an item of new business, we'll go ahead and conduct a vote. Is there a motion to approve the request authorization to purchase the single axle Western Star 10-ton dump truck?
So moved.
Motion's been made and properly seconded to approve the request. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor. Those that can vote online, just so we can test the system, but those in favor, please also raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. Perfect. Why did it go? Why did it come over there?
Yeah.
Oh, because we were conducting a vote, and if you were in the system, then you have the little yes.
Yeah, I
or
saw
no.
it, but I was just wondering why didn't it show?
Yeah, why didn't the results pop up?
Probably because everybody didn't vote.
Me too. Look, we're going to keep doing it with our hands tonight. We're going to keep this meeting going.
We'll get the bugs out.
But there it is. It did pass, or did you put those in? You put those in. All right.
But because it's good to kind of work through this
Right.
as we're going. Me and Councilwoman Weeks didn't get the voting notification to vote. Okay.
We're going to need to.
I got it.
Yes, sir.
Since we're on that subject, continuing right along. So I did get the notification, but when we did the rezone item, I never got for the 4 motions that had to be made. I never got any of them until after it was over with, and then one popped up. Is that just me, or was that the whole system glitching? Okay. Well, I got one of the 4.
All right. I'm going to end up shanghaiing 2 of y'all, and we're going to come in here and have a fake meeting purely to
That's
test
right.
some votes. But item 10.1 is approved for the record. Motion was made, properly seconded, vote passed unanimously. We'll now move to item 10.2, previously known as item 8.1. Either way, it is the McNair Heights contract award for CDBG infrastructure. Mr. Livingston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you this evening is a proposal in community development to fund or assist the funding of an infrastructure grant through the Community Development Block Grant in the amount of $1.1 million for a 31-lot subdivision known as McNair Heights. This is something that they've been working on for quite some time. We have Mr. Matt Whittle here if you have any specific questions for him. But this went through the process that we have now, and they came out as the recommended one for this particular program. And it's a good location. It's been something that there's some existing homes there, so adding on to that subdivision, we believe will be a good thing. It'll provide benefit for the community.
Certainly think it's a positive thing. There are no speakers scheduled for this, given that we're down in the business meeting. Are there any comments or questions from council for Mr. Livingston? All right. Do we have a motion to approve? All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion has been made and properly seconded to approve the resolution for the McNair Heights contract award for CDBG infrastructure as presented. Is there any debate? Hearing none.
No hands.
No hands?
Just see if it. Yeah, no hands.
Already voted.
All right. All right. So either way, we'll call the vote. Those who are able to, please vote on the system. As a backup, those in favor, please raise your hand. I'm gonna do it as a backup just to keep us from rolling because it's almost 9 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. Those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. And if you would tell us afterwards which ones were able to vote through the system. But for the record, just so that we make sure that it is a clear vote, those who voted in favor, please raise your hands. Those who voted opposed, please raise your hand. There were none. Motion passed unanimously. Yes, ma'am. Just so it's clear for the minutes. Now we'll move to item 10.3, previously known as 8.2. It is a Wildlife Asset Management LLC contract award. Mr. Livingston.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is another community development project. It's Wildlife Asset Management. They're a community developer throughout many areas throughout the states. For a subdivision or a housing, multifamily housing of 48 units called Abbott Crossing off of Graves Drive. This is coming out of our home funds, not home ARP funds, not to be confused with that, but the home funds. They've gone through the process, the rigorous application process that we have, and they're being recommended for funding, and we feel like this would be a great project. It's mostly 80% AMI, average median income. So it would meet a lot of the housing needs in the community once it's built, similar to Central Heights or some of those other ones that we've approved the last few years.
Mr. Livingston, where is this one to be located?
It's off of Graves Drive, so you're coming off of Berkeley and you go down past go past the
pastry shop.
Yeah, the pastry shop. That's right there.
And would there be any future zoning or special use or anything to come before council on this one once it got?
It's zoned residential now, so I think it's zoned appropriately. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is zoned for it. Maybe Mark could answer that question.
Do you happen to know? I see you nodding your head.
This is another reason why community development should be in
Part of
planning.
You've heard
It's been
me.
a couple months that I've looked at, but yeah, it's currently zoned general business. Apartments are permitted by right in that
Okay.
district, so it'd be a staff approved place.
Okay. All right, council. So item 10.3 is presented for approval. Is there a motion to approve or deny the resolution? Yes, sir.
Discussion.
Yes, sir.
So when manager pointed out 80%, explain that. I've had a few questions about that, and I want people to be able to understand that.
The best way I can explain that is say the average median income is different for your single-family households versus your two-family or then with 3 or 4. So let's say the average median income is $40,000. So that's the lower income, low to moderate income side. For a single individual, that might be, sort of married, it might be $40,000. So you'd take 80% of that, and that would be that qualifying amount that could still come in. So it's one of these situations where it could be, your working folks as well as very low income folks. And when we get to the point where they'll set aside some for very, very low income and some for lower income, and then but none of it'll be market rate housing. So it'll all be income qualified. But that 80% is to the mean is where you're talking about.
And which developments do we have now that mirror that? Is that mirror the one that's on Central Heights?
Yeah, that's a tax credit, so it's a LIHTC, low-income tax credit housing development, so that it's similar to that, yes.
Okay, because I would really consider that to be what I would call workforce housing. That
It
gives
is.
our folks an opportunity to...
And there's a demand for that. Their market study showed that if it was built today, they could fill it up practically overnight. So we have a strong demand for that right now.
That's a sweet spot of housing that we really, really can benefit from in this community. I would encourage council, where possible, to support this. I know there's a number of other developers that are also interested in looking at things. I'm a huge proponent for market rate development. We right now have not spurred a ton of that, but we really need that sweet spot where that someone who is, working their tail off, sometimes working 1 or 2 or 3 jobs, and they're still not able to afford the market rate rent or a mortgage or whatever else. This is that spot, and being able to break apart so it's not all in one spot. Making it part of the community, I think, is a big priority.
This will also help Seymour Johnson.
Oh yeah.
With their various issues.
Oh yeah.
So this is great.
It's crazy to believe, because Councilman White's 100% correct. One of the needs that they continually talk about is that airmen can't find housing. It's spot on. So anyway, yes, sir.
And not absolutely correct to help military, but with what's coming down the pipe and with our community, with the growth that we're expecting, and with the economic development that we're anticipating happening, we're going to continually need housing that fits our workforce, and the military is a part of that. So I think it's important that mix be there.
So with that, council will entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented for Wallach Asset Management Contract Award for Abbott Crossing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion is made and properly seconded to approve the motion as presented. Is there any debate? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. Again, vote electronically if you can, and then we're going to also double up by voting by hand. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. And this way, Ms. Getz can see if the system is working on the back end. So, item 10.3 unanimously passes. All right, that concludes our business items. Right? Yeah, look at us. Way to go, guys. All right, so now we will move forward with the city manager's report. Mr. Livingston, if you would.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things that I'd like to point out. Today, we had a call with the rating agency with Moody's. Very productive call. I think we're on track to getting our rating back, and that's saying a lot. But we went through a lot of detail with that call. But you could tell that they didn't have a ton of questions for us, but finance staff and the assistant city manager, they all did a very excellent job, and our consultant Davenport, and talking to Moody's ratings. We should find out in about a month or so where we're at with that. We also have a phone call with LGC tomorrow. I fully expect that they will approve the borrowing that we asked for this budget to recapitalize some of the city's rolling stock. So that'll be tomorrow afternoon. We talked a little bit about it, but a lot of the recommendations that were in the plan, the municipal advisory group or management advisory group, it could be a municipal advisory group, but anyhow, we are working through a lot of those recommendations that aren't really ones that are costing anything, the ones that we can go ahead and implement. And there was a lot of things in that report that we were already in the process of doing. So, but I think that shows that, you know, we saw some things that, you know, we needed to try to do even before, you know, that we brought a professional consultant in here. We'll have some more meetings with Eureka, trying to hammer out a merger agreement, or just talk about a merger agreement, get them comfortable with that as we start looking at developing applications for funding. The consultant, CDM Smith, will be there, starting to lay down a lot of those groundworks before we start having our managers meetings with the basic larger group on the merger feasibility study. And we've also started our initial budget meetings. A lot of work to do on the staff's end to go ahead and start getting the revenue estimates and all those things together. But I do think we are moving along as we're where we need to be moving along at to keep the process going. And you know, I do think, and this is kind of an area that I've stressed, and I think that now that we're getting our police force up a little bit more, we really need to work on our community policing model. Just take a look at some observations I've made, and I think that working with some of the community partners like the Housing Authority, like I think the mayor and I are going to be talking with them about getting back into the community on a day-to-day basis, not just rolling in there when there's an incident, but trying to get our presence there, and not as a person to say, oh, here's the police, they're not our friends, but someone that's there to help be a part of that community and be a positive change agent. So that's where I think we're kind of a little weak right now. And I'm just going to say it like it is. I think we need to do some improvements there. That's it. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, so with that, we will move to mayor and council member comments. It being the first meeting of the month, we'll begin on the end of the dais with Councilman Boyette, then work across. Councilman, floor is yours.
I feel like it would be at least reasonable to make reference to a few of the comments that were left at the stand this evening directed towards this council. I don't think that any one of us up here preferred to have our integrity attacked or questioned when it comes to our decision-making process up here. I think it would be safe to say that when the time ever allows it and it's necessary and proper, I think I'll have a lot to say about a lot of things. But as we stand right now, my lack of response has been addressed by the media and has also been addressed by fellow council mates' public social media response related to that too. Also, I'll speak no more about not speaking other than to say what I just said. It's unfortunate that we sit here as elected officials and sometimes have our integrity questioned, but I stand on mine. And I know my constituents know where I stand and where my integrity lies, so I don't take offense personally to someone challenging my integrity, because I know where that stands, and I know that my constituents know where that stands. But it's still unfortunate to see that happen, and sometimes we have to remember that sometimes if someone has something to say, if they say it louder than someone else doesn't make any more right or wrong, just because you raise your voice to say something instead of speaking it in a calm manner, regardless of what the subject matter is. So I'll leave that at that and pedal on as normal from here. So first of all, thank you to all of our hardworking city employees, each and every one. This city couldn't run without you. We value you and we appreciate you. And we had an inclement weather event that happened between this meeting and the last one, and I'd like to again point out and say a special thank you to our public safety, police, fire department, our public works department, our public utilities department, all the folks that kept this city running and kept this city safe. Thank you to each and every one of you. And we support you and we value you and we appreciate you. That's all my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Taylor, floor is yours.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank the speakers that joined us tonight. Despite what some may think.
Councilwoman, if you would grab your microphone, please.
Sorry.
Apologies for the interruption, but thank you.
I want to thank the speakers who joined us tonight. Despite what some may think, I am listening. I want everyone to know that I genuinely take in what is shared and apply it as needed. Every opinion, thought, and feeling expressed is important, and I recognize that when people come out, it takes a special effort to do so. I will say that I just really can't speak on anything. I don't like being attacked per se, but I'm here to do my job, and when it is time to talk, we'll talk. I also want to give a special shout out to Councilwoman Matthews, because this weekend I participated in the women's photo shoot and the after party or reception, whatever you want to call it. It was excellent. It was just all around wonderful. Councilwoman Matthews, she went out of her way to make sure that everything was set up, and even when there was bumps in the road, she handled it. So I just want to give her props on that. Also, I want to remind everyone that District 3 has a neighborhood watch meeting tomorrow. Wednesday evening at 5:30 at the TC Coley Center. We have it every month. And also, if you are in District 3 and you're interested in starting your own neighborhood watches in your areas, please get in touch with me. You can call me. My cell phone number is readily available on our City of Goldsboro website. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem, floor is yours.
Yes, I would like to start off with, we had such a busy week. I certainly enjoyed the budget meeting, those several days that we had. I learned a lot, and it took a lot of paperwork, a lot of work for the departments to present to us their budget. I learned a lot. I asked some questions. I didn't ask a whole lot of questions. I also believe in watching and listening, and I want to thank each and every one of you that were there. And always thankful to Laura, Matt, and O, and all the department heads that was part of the budget meeting. And things for my district, I want to send a shout out to the code enforcement, Lopez, Taj, Polak, and Nicole, because they really have helped me on Hooks River Road, and that area looks really great, and the constituents are very, very happy. It looks good. Also, a shout out to the individuals in the water department who helped me with several constituents that were having problems and concerns. You handled it very calm, and everything was taken care of. African American read-in, I want to thank my Continental sisters for getting out and reading books authored by African Americans about African Americans. I want to thank all the different sororities and fraternities that read books and went out. You know, reading is knowledge, And we have to continue to do that. We have to continue to read to our children and teach them to read as well. So I want to thank each and every one of you that have done that, and for the reading buddies that we have. We have some really good things going on with our kids and our children, and I want to shout out for that. I did go to the town and state dinner. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed my colleagues, Councilwoman Weeks, Councilman Boyette, and interim manager Matt. Thank you, and Miss Laura, and thank you for her setting it up. We had a good time. It's really good to go out and do things like that. You know, that it was really good, so I enjoyed that. I also want to talk and ask you to really, really talk to your friends and your elderly, because functional depression is real. And you may be talking to someone that is actually planning to kill themselves. So please be kind when you're talking to someone, because you don't really know what that person has gone through that day. So let's always take a seat back and be kind. And then lastly, this is March is Women's History Month. Women's History Month. And I first want to celebrate the incredible women of Goldsboro, and I have 3 sitting right here with me. I salute you and celebrate you. And I won't be long, because I had a long speech, but I'm going to be quiet. I'm just going to say this. As we reflect on the past, let us always look to the future. We must commit ourselves to creating a society, a city, where women's voices are heard, valued, and respected. We must strive to dismantle the systemic barriers that still exist, and ensure equal opportunities in every field, be it science, arts, whatever it be. We must do that. Political, arts. To the women of Goldsboro and to the women everywhere, may we continue to shine brightly, inspire endlessly, and lead with love. Together we can create a city and a world that every girl dreams without limits, where every woman can pursue her passion. And for more about women's history, you can check my page. But happy Women's History Month, ladies. And it is an honor to serve with you. That's it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Councilwoman?
Well, since we're talking about women, happy Women's History Month to the ladies of District 4, Goldsboro, Wayne County, and all over the world. Saturday, we hosted a photo shoot right here on the steps of City Hall, and there were over 100 women who came and who thought enough of themselves, who thought enough of me, who thought enough as the power we have as women when we operate in unity. You guys showed up and showed out. I still have not been able to find the words to describe just how good it felt to just see you in action, to see you as individuals but operating together. It was so beautiful. I would be remiss if I did not publicly thank the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi and the Goldsboro chapter, who really just, I can't even put into words just how well you showed out for us. And thank you for reserving space for us, making us feel so daggone special and seen and heard. Thank you to the ladies that I served with who came and supported the event as well. Our next photo shoot, so nobody has any excuse. The next photo shoot day is March the 7th, 2026 at 11 a.m. I cannot say it will be on the steps of City Hall because it's fair to say we have outgrown those steps. So the location is to be determined at this time. Thank you to everyone who joined our conference call. It was so good to hear from you. I have spoke to the necessary staff about some of the issues, and everybody's wheels are already turning. So hopefully within the next meeting or so, we can have maybe some solutions or some ideas of how we can solve some of the things and better get information settled. Last but not least, stop speeding down Slocum Street. Okay? I love you and good night.
Fair enough. Councilwoman, floor is yours.
Thank you for the invite. The after party was amazing. I'm sure it was very evident that I don't dance or cannot dance, but the
That's
food
all right.
was amazing, and you and your team did a superb job. So I salute you in that area. For the 5th District, I am going to be hosting a class, and I would like for all of you guys to come. And actually, it's going to be open to anybody in the community. It's a money management class, and it will start this Wednesday, and it will run for 6 consecutive sessions. We're going to host the class at the First PH Church on Wayne Memorial Drive. It's called I Was Broke, but Now I'm Not. I was broke, but now I'm not. My husband will be facilitating that class. All of the literature, the workbooks, everything is completely free. So it's open to anybody in the community. If you would like more information on that, you could just send me an email to my city email, beverlyweeks@goldsboronc.gov, or you can text 919-920-5189 for more information. We'll be creating budgets, and we'll just be helping each other as we learn to try to get out of debt.
Brilliant. Councilman, floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'd like to thank the Kappa Leaguers who went to the Kappa League Summit over the weekend. We had 10 young men exposed to mind-blowing possibilities down in Greenville, so I salute them. We got 6 more slots that are open for any young man in the grades of 6 to 12. Please reach out. It's a great opportunity to explore the possible opportunities that are out there. To the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, I salute you for supporting Councilwoman event on this weekend. So I salute you for always being present in our community. That took a lot for me to say. Hey, on 18 March, all clergy, I'm calling out all clergy to please come to a Dillard Alumni Building at 10 o'clock so we can discuss the possibilities that we have to actually feed our kids during the summertime. So let's come up with some ways that we can feed our kids during the summertime while school is closed. NAACP went to the school board, or they talked with the superintendent today, and one of the issues they brought up was bullying. So they really got after the issue that the young lady brought to the council on last week. So I salute NAACP for taking the lead in that. To Zeta Phi Beta for what they're doing at Carver Heights and reading with the young people over there. And last but certainly not least, praying for my brothers and sisters in arms who have suddenly lost their federal jobs. So just know that I am actually praying for you. It's real heart-wrenching when you lose your job suddenly. That's all I have.
That's an amazing foray into what I'm getting ready to touch on. A trip to DC this past week. A big thank you to Friends of Seymour and the staff and obviously the congressmen themselves. Congressman Edwards, who represents the western part of North Carolina, Congressman Harrigan, who is kind of somewhere in the middle of it, Representative Davis, who is obviously right here at home, and Senator Budd, who obviously represents our part of the state as well, actually hosting us in their office to be able to discuss issues that are near and dear to Seymour Johnson, including the next airframe that we are certainly pushing to get, but also and certainly Representative Davis just made a really solid amount of work over this just in this Congress session that he's already in, this young Congress session, of support services for the men and women in arms. making sure that this base right here in Goldsboro has the support services that it needs, the housing, the CADM range, the schools, the infrastructure to be able to support the quality of life for those airmen and women, because obviously that's a big part of being able to be a warfighter, is to know that your family at home is taken care of. And we're having these conversations with the backdrop of knowing that we are losing folks, not necessarily due to mission. That's a whole different conversation that I'll stop at. But I do want to say thank you to those congressmen that were willing to host us in their offices and have conversations with us. And your works are certainly certainly yielding results for Goldsboro and Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. I also just want to point out the two large housing investments that came from this meeting tonight. Those are pivotal. When you have partners you can work with, using Habitat for Humanity for a second, giving them a huge amount of credit and props for the McNair Heights development that has been something they've been envisioning for years, and the city being willing to get on board and help fund the infrastructure to make sure that those houses get built and people get in them as quickly as possible. That is critical. It's absolutely critical. Ensuring that we're going and pursuing any option when a landowner and developer comes to the city and says, hey, I'm interested in doing good quality housing, this respectable housing at every price point, and I want to do it over here. It fits within your zoning. Can you help me? Yeah, we want to help you. We want to make sure that it happens, and that's another really good example tonight. There's other ones in the pipeline as well, and I'm really grateful to the work that our existing city staff and our finance department has done, getting us over these last 24 months or so in a position where that our audits are caught up. We're in a position where our funding is not at risk unless everyone's is. Getting us to a position where that we're going to go to the LGC to get something approved. We already know they're going to approve it because we're viewed as an organization that has its act together. And so I just simply want to end with this. The work that this city does day in and day out is done in good faith to try and move the needle the right way in the right direction. I believe that we have good people that work for this city that are trying to move the needle in the right direction every day. Occasionally things go a little bit sideways. We're going to hold ourselves accountable. We're going to get it right, and we're going to move on because we're going to move the needle the right way every chance we get. So with that concludes my comments. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's nothing further to come before council, Madam Getz, Mr. Livingston, anything further to come before council? Mr. Lawrence, is there anything to come before council? All right, with that, we stand adjourned.